What is going on, everybody? Welcome to your opening drive for the week of November 11th. We are 2 weeks away from, Thanksgiving. That's the only thing that week. As always, I am Jeremy the Couch Potato. Opposite side of the screen, we got Coach Slate. What is good, sir?
Not much, man. Just running the kids around. Have basketball today. Willow was out there. She's so tiny. Like she is. She's always the smallest person on the court, on the field, no matter what sport she does. But she plays hard defense, man. She's just like her mom. She just hustles, gets steals, plays hard on defense. But yeah, it was fun, man. Shout out to Excel. They do such a good job. Coach Keith is my guy. Like
He's the man.
He's so good with the younger kids. He's not easy on them, but he just makes it enjoyable for them, and they actually feel like they're learning something. So my daughter's obsessed with him. She thinks he's great. So yeah, man, that's all I spent today doing, just watching that and just hanging out with the fam. How's everything with you?
Good. Spent the day watching day 2 of the Leatherneck Classic. The boys qualified 4th or 5th, lost first round of bracket, 2-1, best of 3. So still a top 8 finish against a lot of really, really good teams. So we'll take that. And in other news, the Cleveland Browns lost to the bye week today, 10-3. They had to give us our weekly dose of heartbreak. So yeah, this is going to be a Boilermaker beatdown edition, I guess you would say.
Yeah.
Brought to you by our guys, the Barn and Cornerstone. I don't know how else to put it. The Buckeyes win 45-0. We expected this to not be a close game, but anytime you can pitch a shutout in a conference game, that's pretty sweet.
Yeah, shutouts are the absolute best as a defensive guy. I don't care who you're playing. I don't care what the talent difference is. Like, it takes a lot to go out there and shut a team out. And so to go out there and to hold them from any points, that's big. It's a big confidence boost for the defense. They've had a couple good weeks in a row now. We hope we can continue with that with Northwestern and then Indiana. And then obviously with the team up north. But this was a good game, man. I was happy with the way we played. I thought the run game looked good. I thought our defensive line, the rotations were good. Will Howard, other than one deep ball, I thought he played pretty freaking good. He was 21 of 26. So, you'll take these type of wins all the time. I will never complain at a 45-0 win.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Purdue missed the chip shot field goal, and then they missed another one. But really, when you look at this game, it was everything you really wanted. We came out seemingly healthy. Let's see. Oh, Mitchell Melton. They said he did not have his helmet at halftime or after halftime. And then you also had Aaron Scott get dinged up. We also had the everybody hit the pit of their stomach on the same play when Carson Hinsman and Will Howard both get rolled up on. Shout out Donjoy knee braces, though.
Yeah.
Diving into the numbers, though, the Buckeyes had 433 yards of offense, 260 in the air, 173 on the ground. So, and breaking it down, that's pretty balanced.
Yeah.
Gave up 206.
Yeah. It was really balanced. And that's one of the things that I think Chip Kelly is really striving for with this offense. With Will Howard, you don't need him to go throw the ball, 40 plus times a game. Obviously he can if we need to, but to be in that 20 to 25 range, he had 26 attempts. That's consistently where you want him to be, and he completed, it was 21 of 26. Like, that is, that is efficient. And that's what we want to see from him. Obviously he was more involved in the run game as well. And so, yeah, balance when it comes to offense. I think that's Chip Kelly's MO, and I love it. I love it. And it's a little bit of a contrast between what Ryan Day used to do. And so you're really starting to see, Ryan Day being that CEO is paying off for our guys. You're getting more guys in on offense. You're getting more rotations. You're getting 170 plus yards rushing. over these last few weeks. And so we just got to make sure that balance continues.
Yeah, absolutely. The thing that really jumped out yesterday, especially as far as the pass game goes, for Purdue not being a great or probably even a good football team, they held Emeka Egbuka in check. One catch, and that wasn't until the fourth quarter. I believe that was his 33rd straight game with a catch, and we almost didn't get it. Obviously, anytime that JJ has 6 grabs for 87 yards and a touchdown, you're going to have some of that. I noticed something with Jeremiah yesterday, and I've noticed it all year, but I don't think we've ever talked about it. We talk about how this kid's just a freshman, but watching Jeremiah Smith catch the football, he catches the ball with his hands. Hands only. It is about as fundamental as I think I've ever seen in college football.
Yeah, it's impressive, man. One of the things that I know wide receiver coaches across the country, preach is, catching the ball with the hands, catching the ball away from your body, attacking the football, because you're seeing more and more defensive backs being taught the same exact thing as well. And so when that ball is in the air, you have to have the confidence that you're going to go get it no matter what. And that's one of the things that I think separates Jeremiah Smith from a lot of the other ones, is because he's got that freakish athletic ability, but he is a sound catcher of the football. I mean, his eyes are locked in. The couple drops that he's had is because he was not looking at the ball the way through. He was trying to get his eyes upfield before he made the catch. But 90+% of the time, you're seeing him locked in on that catch first, because as a receiver, you can't do anything if you don't catch the ball. And so I love seeing his attention to detail, whether it's in his routes, whether it's in his blocking, or whether it's something as simple as catching the football. So JJ he's just different, man. I don't even there's not much you can say about him. He just rewrote the entire freshman record book. He's just different. And it's so cool to see how that receiver, the receiving core, Zone 6, embraces him, and that he's the guy now. He's the number one guy, and that's crazy on a roster that's got Emeka Egbuka and freaking Carnell Tate. Like Jeremiah Smith has just come in and he's the guy, and they've accepted that, and their roles are what their roles are. And so, I mean, I can't say enough about that kid, man. He is special, and he's a pro.
Yeah, and I think I'm going to go ahead and call my shot. Jeremiah Smith will win the Biletnikoff. I think that there is just too much hype around him. You've still got some big games on deck. If you see him just absolutely feast against the team up north in Indiana both, I think that seals it. The other thing on offense yesterday that really jumped out, and we've talked about this, and they actually covered it a lot in the broadcast yesterday. How good is healthy Travion Henderson?
He's special, man. He's special. The one thing that I love about the way Trey's running, he's making one cut and going. He is getting vertical and getting through that first 4 or 5 yards before he's looking to make another move or make somebody miss. And if he can't make anybody miss, he's not afraid to lower his shoulders. This is the reason why Trey was okay with the Buckeyes bringing in Quinshawn. This is the reason why Quinshawn was okay coming in and tag teaming with Trey, because they keep each other fresh. Now, did Quinshawn have his best game? No, he didn't. He did not have his best game. There's a few holes that he missed. But it's like they're alternating roles each week. Like somebody's going to have a good week, somebody's going to have a so-so week, but they're still going to combine for 120 plus yards. I cannot say enough about Trey and the dynamic nature that he brings to our offense. When we motioned him out and got him one-on-one on the edge with the linebacker, you could tell that Will was just trying to make sure he got the ball there. I think if Will leads him a little bit more, that's a tutty. You know what I mean? The fact that we can do that with him, you saw them try to do some things with Quinshawn and Trey on the field at the same time. It's because they feel confident in where they are with the running backs and how healthy they are right now. So we just got to continue to see that, continue to go with the hot hand. But, man, like you said, with Trey, when he's healthy, he is explosive, and he's violent when he runs too. And so it's awesome to see.
Nine touches, 128 yards yesterday.
Yeah.
Also, I wrote a couple of notes down about still adapting. they actually highlighted. I was hoping they didn't say it during the show. He was on kickoff return.
Yeah, I saw that.
So I think it's interesting that we're still, and that's just gamesmanship, I'm sure. We're throwing everybody but the kitchen sink out in different positions. Just like with that formation where they had Quinshawn in the backfield and Trey almost like in an H-back. You're just throwing stuff out there. And we'll dive into something else that got thrown out there yesterday to show up on tape here in a couple of minutes.
Yeah.
Swapping sides to the defensive side of the ball. Are we starting to see end of last year Jack Sawyer?
Yeah. So well, he's one of my silver bullets for the week, and so I thought Jack played one of his better games. Jack is the type of guy that once good things start to happen, you could tell he gets in a groove, and he's going to continue to play that way. Jack is a person that you can see on film, like he wants to do things exactly the way Coach Knowles has taught him to do, right? And so it's almost like if he doesn't make the play, it's okay. But when he makes it, now he's got that confidence. Now he starts playing with a little swagger. Watch out. And so I love the way that he played yesterday. I love the way that JT played yesterday too. I'm looking at the PFF grades right now, and defensively, Jack was 5th overall on the team on defense, and then JT was number 1. Defensive grade for JT was 91.7, and for Jack it was 73.6. And so you're looking. This is what you need from these two on a consistent basis. If we can get this type of production out of both of them, we're going to be a force to be reckoned with on the defensive side of the ball. But Jack his play is starting to increase, man, and I love seeing it. It's happening at the perfect time. Also
defensively, guy we talked about on Before the Battle, Edric Houston gets the start at an inside spot. They said Tyleek could have played. Nice to see. He had the one bonehead mistake, the 15-yard penalty, but he's a freshman. It's going to happen. I also find it interesting. I'm looking through the numbers here real quick right now. 16 freshmen played yesterday.
Yeah, there was a lot of freshmen.
You actually saw Damarian Witten made his debut. It was only for one snap, but we saw our guys, James People and SWD. Mylan Graham got some time. Aaron Scott, Dominic Kirks, Peyton Pierce. Jalen McLean had a tackle breakup or a pass breakup.
Yep.
Bryce West finally got some time.
Yeah, I was pumped about that, man.
Leroy Roker got his first time. It was nice to see. And, some of the other young guys that we've talked about, Joshua Mickens got time yesterday and made a couple plays.
Yep.
Speaking of making plays on the defense, well, we'll call this the special team side of the ball, though. Your boy, Caden Curry.
Yeah.
Gets the punt block and almost got another one.
Yeah. Caden Curry, man, as a football coach, as a high school football coach specifically, like those are the type of kids you want on your team. You'll take 11 of them, right? Just those high effort, try hard kids. One of the things that used to bug me all the time as a coach, and it still does today, when kids get called a try hard, and it's like almost like a bad thing. Yep. And it's like, dude, like that's what we want. We want kids that are going to go to the whistle, that are it's almost annoying how hard they go at all times, right? As a player, you get frustrated with them. Like, dude, relax, man. Like you're being a try hard. Like, no, like we need more guys like Caden Curry. To me, he is a dog. Like those are the type of people you want in that foxhole with you when it's time to make a play. Getting that block punt was huge because the offense kind of sputtered a little bit first couple of drives. Yep. Didn't execute it the way that they wanted to. And then you get that, and it turns things around. You get the block punt, and it turns things around. We were to bring that to like the local level. This past year, when we were playing Marysville, our offense was struggling, and I'm in charge of the punt return team. And I looked at our defensive coordinator and I said, "Hey, I'm going to go get one. So if we can try to get a spark, so if we get a 15-yard penalty, just be ready for the defense to go back out on the field." And he's like, "Dude, whatever, go get it." We schemed something up, and our guy came free, got the punt block. Offense gets the ball on the 2-yard line. We score on the next play. And now there's confidence, right? There's excitement on the sidelines, and now the kids feel like, oh, okay, we're back where we need to be. We got this. That's what Caden Curry provided. And if you look at the sideline after that, our guy Rob Keyes getting loved up by Coach Day, right? That's what he left Findlay for, that opportunity. He was in a great job at the University of Findlay where he didn't need to leave. He's making good money, but he came down to Ohio State for the opportunity to be in this position, and they draw something up and it works. And so, those type of special teams plays are game changers, and you need to put that on film, because now not just Northwestern, but Indiana, the team up north, now they got to look at the punt return team and be like, okay, these are the people that we have to make sure we account for. And so they know that they're capable of this. They know Ohio State's not afraid to put their dudes out there on that punt return team. And so now you have to spend a little extra time getting prepared for that. And so I love when special teams plays happen, because they are truly a difference maker that can't be overlooked.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought that was really a momentum changer, like you said. It was also really cool social media-wise to see a couple of the guys that we both have made no bones about being fans of that are really starting to gain, I guess you would say, a lot of popularity with the fan base when they're in the game. I've seen multiple people giving Luke props, and I've seen a lot of people talking about how is Gabe Powers not playing more.
Yeah.
Because when he's in, he's making plays.
Yeah.
So I thought that was really cool to see that, yes, we have guys that we are partial to. And come this time next year, all you're going to hear me talking about is, did Bogman Miller get in the game? It's just, that's the way it goes. You are drawn to people that you like.
Yeah. So, and the one thing about that, man, like I will be honest about it. Luke Montgomery is my guy. I think he should be starting, but that's just me being, a former coach and a fan of the kid, because he's a great kid. But him and Gabe are guys that are doing it the right way. They're trusting the process. They're fully bought into the brotherhood. They're, waiting their time. They're buying their time. They're staying ready to go. Luke prepares like he is the starter. I know that for a fact. When he goes out there, he doesn't take a rep off. He tries to make sure that he's executing the way that it's supposed to be, regardless of whatever time of the game that it's in. When he's out there on the PAT team, he takes that stuff very serious. Like, he doesn't take for granted being an Ohio State Buckeye. And like those are the type of people that you want to represent your program. And so I love hearing guys like him and Gabe get some love when they go in. The Austin Saravells of the world as well. When they go in, they play at a high level, they give max effort, and they take the coaching. And it's so cool to see those young kids, the freshmen and the guys we just mentioned, to just go get those opportunities, because that's what they came to Ohio State for. And also for me, it represents like I don't want to say like a new era for Ryan Day, but it's not something that you always saw, where we're getting these young guys into these blowout games and getting them a bunch of reps and just seeing what happens, right? Edric Houston getting the start on defense. Like, you're not used to seeing that, right? Them going with a freshman. I thought for sure if Tyleek didn't play, who are they going to go with? They're going to go with Caden McDonald. Like, why would you not have him in there? Put him at the nose, put Ty at the 3, and there we go. But they didn't. They went with Edric. Why? Because they know this has got to be a kid that's good for us. He's got to be a dude. And so he needs that experience. And, it may have resulted in Purdue getting some extra rushing yards, but it's in the long run, it's going to pay dividends for the development of Edric Houston and all the development of these young offensive linemen as well. So I love seeing us get these guys in there.
Yeah, I actually felt like we left the offensive starters in there about 2 drives too long.
Yeah.
I wasn't crazy about those guys being in there in the fourth quarter at all. We've hit a point in the year, we've talked about, and I actually got asked this question, so I'm going to kind of incorporate this into it. Let me find how he exactly worded this. Give me just a second, because I didn't think I could link the two together, but we can. So this came after last weekend's game. After watching OSU this week and last, I've always wondered, when you're playing a team you see as inferior, do coaches only try to run the same plays over and over, but just out of different formations to not show stuff to the better teams? This was really hit, I think, on the Nebraska game. I think it was kind of twofold, from the Nebraska game to the Penn State game.
Mhm.
I know early in the season you see that a lot, but in conference play, I wasn't sure if that still happens. It sure looked like it last week. So along with that, you saw, especially Jim Knowles, put some stuff out there yesterday to get it on film. And yes, friends, that was the Jack
Yeah.
that we saw.
Yeah, man. I was pretty pumped up. I'm not gonna lie when I saw it. That's a great question. Listen, there are so many ways that you can look at that. From one aspect, most coaches, now this is for me at the high school level, you run what you're good at and you try to put some makeup on it and make it look pretty and throw some different, formations out there. But at the end of the day, you're still running the same stuff. You want to run the stuff that the kids are confident in doing, right? So if you go back to the Nebraska game, we're coming off a game where maybe the offensive line didn't play as well as they should have. And so what do you think you need to do for the offensive line to feel confident? You got to get back to basics, right? And what are those basics? Urban Meyer said it the best. So you go back to what you know you're good at, right? If it's inside zone right and left, power right and left, and that's it, boom, you go out there and run it. And so with that game, I think Ohio State was just wanting to show their base stuff and for the kids to get really good in that base stuff because we struggled against Oregon in some areas of the run game the week before. With this game, when there is a huge talent discrepancy, you're going to try a few more things, right? You're not just going to go out there and run the same stuff. You're going to run things that you might think work against Indiana, might work against a team up north that you want to get on film. And if it doesn't work, that's okay. We can always go back to what we're good at. So you're trying some different combinations. You're trying some different players. You're trying some different personnel. You're trying some different plays, maybe show a different formation here or there. Like those are things that you're willing to do in a game like this where you've already gotten a good lead. You're up 21-0 at halftime. You know what I mean? Those are the type of things that you will be okay showing. But if stuff hits the fan, like we saw with the Jack when he was out there, they went right back to their base 4-man front and they did what they had to do. And so you're more willing to try those things when you feel good about where your team is. Coming out of Oregon, they didn't feel good about where their team was. So it was truly back to the basics. Now we've had a good week, a pretty dominant final drive against Penn State. So you feel good about where the run game is. Now we could start adding to it because we know this is what we are good at. And so that's where you saw the two backs, in the game at the same time. You saw Quinshawn line up at receiver and they tried to run a reverse. If Trey gets the block, if G gets his block, that's a big play. And so that's where you're willing to try more things because these are the games that Michigan and Indiana are really going to be locked in on. So if you start adding those things on film, it means I've got to prepare for them. I can't ignore the fact that you did that. I got to prepare for it. And so in a game like Purdue, you're willing to try a lot more. But if coming off a tough loss where you may struggle, that's where you want to say, okay, let's get back to the basics and let's just do what we do.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. I think that was a great example. We saw. So diving into the Jack a little bit, obviously we will talk a little bit more about this once we have the film. But we were very susceptible to the run. It looked like Purdue audible to a run play basically every time we were lined up in the odd front. But we also weren't running it with what I would consider the right personnel either. If you run that with Jack and JT and a true interior guy, be it an Edric Houston or a Tyleek or a Ty, and then you add, Arvell, Cody, the true guys. We were running it with CJ Hicks, who, to throw this caveat out there, I was trying to loop all this into one conversation. After the game, CJ Hicks basically said, I want to be in Coach Johnson's room.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and not a knock on CJ Hicks. I think he's uber talented. He's a junior now. They've been trying to develop him as a linebacker. It's just not worked out the way that he wanted it to, that the Buckeyes wanted it to, but you can't deny his athleticism. Seeing this week shows me a couple things. One, Jim Knowles fully in charge of the defense. He is the final say, right? And so that is one thing it shows me. Number two, it shows me that there was definitely a rift between philosophies between LJ and Jim that we haven't seen this yet, because obviously in the first 4 games of the season, there were multiple opportunities to do things like this, and we never did it. Okay. And 3, it shows me that CJ now understands where his strengths are and what's going to be his best opportunity to get to the league, right? Baron Browning just signed another contract with whatever team he's with. All right. He got like an extension or something. And so
got traded to the Cardinals this
year. He got traded to the Cardinals. They're looking at signing him to an extension because he's that type of player. These are the things that CJ is going to be able to do. And so I'm glad that maybe he's seeing it, and hopefully that does happen. I really hope it happens, because what's the difference between him and Josh Mickens when it comes to size? There isn't, right? CJ might be bigger than Josh. Like, Josh might be a little taller, but there really is no difference. So I would love to see CJ Hicks in that role. When it comes to that odd front and what Jim Knowles wants to do, you hit the nail on the head when it comes to personnel. If you have Jack as your strong side defensive end, you have Tyleek as your 3 technique, and even putting Ty Hamilton or a Edric Houston as your boundary 5 or 3 technique, whatever you want to call it, plus the Jack, like, now you're talking being in a more prominent position to stop the run. If you also watch the way that we ran that, we were just moving that person off the edge and bringing him off the edge. If we've shown the film, if you go back, that's not always what Jim Knowles is wanting to do. What he showed on Saturday was the base layer of what that position and what that personnel package can be. And so how can you get better at it if you don't put it out there on the field, right? And so I guarantee you they have a personnel where it is Tyleek at nose, where it is Caden McDonald at nose, where it is Ty Hamilton as one of the ends, and where it is Jack as one of the ends. And then you could even do that with JT as the Jack, right? It doesn't always have to be Mitchell Melton or CJ Hicks. Like, it could be JT very easily. It could be Sonny Styles. Right. So I guarantee you we start seeing this more. I'm just happy that we put it on film, because there are different fronts that you could run out of it that are built to help stop the run, that keep the linebackers free. Again, this was just the base layer of that defense. And so I know it was susceptible to the run, but there were also some missed tackles, right? There was one play where Cody Simon was free to the ball, meets him in the hole, misses a tackle. Their running back gets 6 or 7 more yards. Schematically, it looks like, oh man, they gave up some yards, but did we really, or did we just miss a tackle? And so there are some good things that can come from this. Shout out to CJ for humbling himself a little bit and maybe, being more open to that, because I think that's where his future is. And that's okay if that's where his future is. Just get him there now. and so he can get better and better, so that playoff time comes, watch out.
Yeah, I mean, because he does have to learn a different set of skills. The hand action is somewhat different as the D lineman versus a linebacker. You're going more that first engagement with the offensive lineman. So it is a different vibe. He did have the one play yesterday where he was unblocked and didn't get there. So yeah, he definitely has some things to do, but like, I've seen so many people write him off. I got into a little conversation on X today about it. A gentleman who I talk a lot of Buckeye football with, very cool guy. And he was like, I've seen enough. He's 2.5 years in. He's a wasted cause. This isn't the place for him. And I'm like, look, we have seen so many people have that big senior year, let alone if he does change positions. And it's Ohio State. There are guys in front of him.
Yeah.
But we did Baron Browning a major disservice when he was here. So I would like to see Ohio State right this ship.
Yeah, and it's very real possibility. Listen, at the end of the season, whenever that happens, people are going to talk about CJ transferring. That's something that's going to be brought up quite a bit. If CJ decides to stay, which I think he will because he wants to be a Buckeye, those conversations going in the offseason will have to happen, right? I want to be in the defensive line room, put me there. And let's say they do that. Going in the next year, if you have the Jack or a personnel package where he's getting 12 to 15 snaps a game, just doing that stuff, he's going to play on Sundays. Like, that's what's going to happen. And so there will be time for him to go out there and make plays and do those things. We just have to commit to doing it. And that just takes time. It's a process. It takes everybody being on the same page. James Laurinaitis probably doesn't want to give up on somebody like CJ. It's a freak of nature. Like, that type of athleticism is once in a million. Like, you don't get those type of kids consistently in your linebacker rooms. It's the same exact thing with Baron Browning. Baron Browning I don't remember him playing at all until he was a senior. I mean, at all at linebacker until he was a senior. And even then, they still brought him in just to do some stuff off the edge as well. So listen, trust the process. The Buckeyes will figure it out. Now that Jim Knowles, I think, has got the full say of what's going on, I think you're going to see that position and the uptick of that position a little bit more over the next few weeks.
Sure. I agree. So, yeah, I mean, that kind of ties multiple conversations into the context of this week's game. I kind of feel like Joel and Gus, I couldn't get overly excited as I was sitting here jotting notes down. I'm like, man, we really just did everything we were supposed to do. So it's going to make the good, the bad, and the ugly kind of boring. I've got 5 things written down, 3 of which are football related.
Yeah.
Travion Henderson, obviously, definitely falls under the good. Crossing routes. If the O-line can hold up, I think it was the G. Scott touchdown. That was a long developing crossing route.
Yeah.
But it came open when it needed to.
Yeah, it did.
The pass rush. 4 sacks, 5 QB hits. Those dudes, ever since they really got called out after the Oregon game, are starting to play with their hair on fire.
Yes.
The best damn band in the land. If you haven't seen their halftime performance from yesterday, go watch it. You will be entertained. And I already gave this one away, but Don Joy knee braces. I don't want to be the doomsdayer like our boy Tyler Emmerich, who has already told me how pessimistic he is. But I have full faith in the coaching staff. But the way this line is playing with Carson Hensman beside Donovan Jackson, if Carson Hensman would have gotten hurt yesterday, I would have been scared.
Yeah, I don't know if I would have been scared, but I definitely wouldn't have been as confident. But yeah, like you said, shout out to the Don Joy knee braces, saving the day. I know there are some other offensive linemen out there who have been saved by Don Joy knee braces. I had a kid at Findlay who was saved by those knee braces. So they're well worth the amount of money you have to pay to get them. And so shout out to Don Joy. Way to look out for Carson Hensman for sure.
For sure.
All right. So my good, I don't have any bad this week. I have one ugly that I may go on a little bit of a tangent about, so I apologize in advance. The good for me, Coach Keys, got to give him some love, man. Getting the punt block, seeing the interaction with Coach Day on the sideline. I was super pumped about that. Everybody clamored for us to get rid of our special teams coordinator last year, right? Doesn't need to be making $500,000, all these different things. All right, well, if you do that, then it's got to fall into the hands of the support staffers and other staffers on the squad. I think him and Coach Gunner have done a great job of making sure that the special teams are locked in and ready to go. Obviously, earlier in the season, we had some kicking woes, but I think special teams is clicking and playing well right now. And so shout out to Coach Keys, man, for helping get that group in order. The good for me also, the defense, I can't say enough. They didn't play a perfect game by any means, but they made some plays, did some things when we needed it, held them to field goals. I predicted the game to be 45-6, by the way.
I got that text as soon as the game was over, not from you, but from a listener who said, man, Purdue's kicker really screwed Coach Slate.
Yeah. But yeah, shout out to the defense, man. They were, they're playing well. I loved all the rotations. We didn't have one person play over 50 snaps. There was a ton of people that got in there and played. So shout out to the defense. And then I want to give the good for me was us looking at different personnel running some different schemes, getting the jack out there like that is good. We got to get it on film. If it's going to be a part of what we do, we've got to get it on film, correct what we need to correct, and then be able to implement it, in a much better fashion in the coming weeks. And I just wish we didn't wait until week 10 of the season to do this. I wish we would have done it, the first 4 weeks of the season would have been a perfect opportunity, but we didn't. But nonetheless, we arrived where we needed to be. And so, shout out to the coaching staff for looking at those different personnel schemes.
So, yeah, I'm with you. I have 3 things written down. I had 2 under bad, 1 under ugly. But one of my bad is your ugly. So I'm going to move it to ugly so that I can let you talk about it. So
Okay.
For my bad, I just have third down conversions. We were only 5 of 12 in a game that, we should have statistically dominated. I just like to see more efficiency there.
Yeah.
As far as ugly goes, and this is not a knock on Gus and Joel, but big noon kickoff. I think it's getting a little stale. If your noon game is supposed to be your big game, how was this your noon game when you had Colorado, Texas Tech, which is where your big noon kickoff live show was, which normally the two go hand in hand. Now, I understand there's TV contracts at play and that type of thing. Like, essentially, the networks draft games every week. But Nebraska shouldn't have been a big noon kickoff game.
Yeah.
I don't know that outside of the first 4 weeks of the year, Ohio State's been on the Big Ten Network this year.
Yeah.
So, Fox understands that Ohio State equals ratings, and I get that. But you're going to have the Michigan game. You're going to have the Indiana game, which it sounds like is going to be a noon game. That's a whole nother conversation that we may dive into, before the battle for that game. And I don't know what channel the Northwestern game is going to be on, which Ohio State's currently favored by 30.5. And I'm a little nervous given what our topic of the ugly is. I'm a little nervous about that this week going to a baseball field.
Yeah, I get that. I think with the grass, I think you'll see it won't be as bad as people think. I would imagine they've been preparing for this, and I would hope anyway, and that the field is well maintained. And I wouldn't worry that much about Wrigley Field as I do our own stadium. Like that's so frustrating. And so I don't have any bad, but for the ugly, it is the turf. Okay. And the where I'm going with this may not be, just talking about the turf and how bad it sucks. Where I'm going to go with this is where Gus Johnson tried to blame it on the band. Okay. Because they practice out there all the time. Well, they practice in other places too, first and foremost. Second, don't ever blame the band, no matter what school you're at, for anything. I repeat, do not blame the band for anything. You know why you don't do that? Number one, listen, those band parents don't play around. I'm just going to be honest with you. They will be on you in a heartbeat. Get off the field. It's halftime. It's time for our kids to get to work. Or get off the field. It's the end of the game. Our kids have a show to work on, right? The band puts in so many hours. It is mind-boggling that anybody would ever want to be a part of a marching band because the amount of time that they put in is just insane. It's insane. I have so much respect for those kids who stand out there carrying their instruments. It's 150 freaking degrees outside, and they don't even bat an eye. They just do it, right? I've got about 6 kids on my queso that are in the band at the school I teach at, and the amount of time they put in, it's like if they're not in class with me or in another class, they're doing something with the band. It's just like mind-blowing. So don't ever blame anything with the field on the band. They deserve to be out there. They deserve it 1,000%. You can blame it on a lot of other things, but Gus, don't blame anything that's wrong with the field on the freaking band, especially the best damn band in the land. Are you kidding me? A lot of those fans that show up to the shoe want to see the halftime show. Every Buckeye game I've ever been to, I've never left until the halftime show was over to go use the bathroom, to go get a drink, to go do whatever. People want to see those things. So shout out to the Ohio State band. Gus, all the other commentators, don't blame the field conditions on the freaking band. They deserve to be out there. They are Ohio State Buckeyes, just like us, or just like the team that's taking the field. And that experience, they are there. Rain, sleet, hail, snow, doesn't matter. The band is there. They are there in the trenches. One of my favorite things about Coach Hinton, and I'll get off my soapbox after this. One of my favorite things about Coach Hinton, after every big win, this dude would sprint onto the band buses and say, "We did it. We did it." And all the kids would go nuts. Why? Because the band is a part of the football program. The football team does not survive without the band in the stands, right? People know it's football season when they hear the marching band coming down the street, getting ready to enter the stadium. That's when people know it's football season, right? Don't blame anything on the band, all right? The football experience is nothing without the bands. So shout out to all the bands across the state of Ohio. Coach Slater will never disrespect you, ever. It will never happen. So shout out to the bands. Gus Johnson, you got to be better, man. Don't blame it on the band.
Yeah, I think Gus was just grumpy yesterday. I felt bad for Jack Sawyer. You score your first touchdown as a Pickerington kid in the shoe, and Gus Johnson, who's arguably this generation's Keith Jackson, goes, and Sawyer picks it up for the touchdown.
Yeah.
Come on, Gus. Give the kid his flowers. But I think that's just Ohio State fatigue, as crazy as that sounds.
No, I get it. It would be tough. But I love Gus Johnson. I think he's great. I think he's great. He just had a moment.
I get it. So Buckeye leaves. I could just call mine silver bullets because all three of mine are defense.
Okay.
The first one, I feel like these guys go in tandem, so we're kind of doing four today.
Okay.
We're going to go a combo of Jack Sawyer and JTT.
All right.
Because I feel like when one of them plays good, the other one plays good.
Yeah. I liked what they did pregame too. The little with those two, the reading of the book and being friends and stuff. I thought that was pretty cool.
And I thought that, and that's where I'll give Fox credit. ESPN has always been the standard for college football pregame. I think Fox is doing some really cool stuff. The Joel Klatt interview with Emeka, Joel called it a walk and talk. When they're walking into the stadium post skull session, Emeka's still in his suit, and he's having a quick interview. And I thought that was cool. So
that's really cool.
And then, so my second one, a guy we've talked about a ton, but we've never really gave him props. Jordan Hancock.
Oh man, come on now.
Played so good yesterday.
Come on now. Hopefully he ends up in Cleveland.
I wouldn't wish that on him anymore. They lost to the bye week. We can't put that on him.
Oh man.
And then I'm going to give Caden Curry one.
There we go. You just took one of my silver bullets, but it's all right. No, that's good, man. Those are good. So for me, I got a special Buckeye Leaf that's going to go out that is going to go to a coach from another school. So I will get to that in a second. But Buckeye Leaf number 1, G. Scott.
Yes.
I see him score the touchdown, and then I get on X and I'm just scrolling through, right? It was during the commercial break after he scored. And I saw a tweet that said, "I bet your pastor didn't score a touchdown today." And it was talking about, somebody, I don't know, at the church that he was, doing some
baptism and stuff.
Where he was doing some ministry stuff. Like somebody tweeted that out there. I was like, man, that's really cool. Like, it's so cool. You think the highlight of your life is probably being a Buckeye. He always talks about the highlight is coming to know Christ here. And so I think that's really cool. Shout out to G. Scott. Buckeye Leaf number 2, Travion Henderson. He's playing his best football of his career, in my opinion. I hope that continues. Silver Bullets, number 1, Jim Knowles. I'm just very pleased with the direction of the defense. Seeing just him get back to being him, something that I really enjoy seeing. It's why we brought him here. My next one was Lathan Ransom. I was hoping he returned that interception for a touchdown.
Yes.
I was hoping it happened. But I was happy to see him get a pick. And then my last silver bullet before I give like my honorary Buckeye leaf out, Josh Mickens. I remember going down on a recruiting visit with Luke to the Indiana game 2 years ago when Cameron Babb scored that touchdown.
Yep.
And we were sitting right there in the front row, and on the bus, we were sitting next to Josh Mickens, right? Josh Mickens was being recruited by another school. He was actually silently committed to that school. They didn't know that he was on a visit to Ohio State. I just remember like the things that were going through his mind. You could just see it on his face, you know, what he was going to, he knew, I think he knew then that he was going to be a Buckeye. And so he was trying to work through how like to make that announcement. I remember him and Luke talking and all these different things. And it was, I was happy to see him get out there and get a play. He is, and people often forget that we have a kid like him. Josh Mickens is a freak of nature. I really think, you know, a couple more years, you know, when he's a junior or whatever, I think he'll have an opportunity to be a player for us. But my honorary Buckeye leaf, and I know this is probably not going to be a popular take, but I don't care. I love this guy. Coach Prime, listen. 2 years ago, Colorado lost 11 games. 11 games they lost. They are 7-2 right now with a very reasonable path to the Big 12 championship. And if they get to the Big 12 championship, they're one game away from making it to the playoff. I'm not saying it's going to happen. They can mess around and lose 3 straight. But I just hope people start to see the respect that his team has for him, the level of commitment that he's shown, not only to the players, but to the city of Boulder, and all the positive things that he has just brought to college football. I mean, Big Noon Kickoff, like I enjoyed watching that just because they're playing Colorado. Like it was fun to see Texas Tech throw on the tortillas and all these different things. Like that was enjoyable. And I don't think that impact is there if they're not playing Colorado and Shador and Travis Hunter. And so Coach Prime, some people give him a hard time. They don't like the way he does things. I don't always agree with the way he does things, but something's working. He's got something figured out. The guys that he's brought in from the NFL are really developing these guys from the first game until now. I think they're a completely different team. It's just fun. It is just fun to see. I hope they find a way to get the double-digit wins. I hope they make it to the Big 12 championship and then let the chips fall where they may after that. But to be, 1-11 2 years ago to 7-2 in that amount of time, that's big. I've been on programs. My junior year of college, we were a 1-11 team. My senior year, we had one of the biggest turnarounds in Division II, going 6-5. And that's one of the more proud moments of my life. And so, Coach Prime, good job, man. You should be proud of yourself, proud of those guys. More importantly, just keep going, take care of business, do things the right way. And, maybe we'll see the Buffs in the playoffs. I don't know. But shout out to Coach Prime, man.
It could actually fall that way. I mean, if you look at things tentatively right now, it would. We would play Boise, and then the winner of that would play them.
Yeah.
Depending what happens in the Big Ten championship game. That program that Joshua Mickens was committed to, they probably would have liked to have him to try to help him stop Jalen Milroe last night, because that was ugly. I guess that's their karma for bringing a heavily sedated real tiger to the stadium. Like, I'm gonna bounce off of that real quick. I'm gonna give an honorary Buckeye leave to of another team, and I don't think this is going to be a surprise to anybody. You might not know his name, but we are going to give a Buckeye leave to Coach Brent Key and the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets for finally getting Miami. Those dudes should have been got how many times this year, and the ACC bailed them out. Brent Key and his team said, Miami, refs, ACC, you ain't taking this one from us.
Yeah.
come back with it, and we got it.
Yep, leave no doubt.
I mean, that 200, I'm sure they got over 300 yards rushing.
Yeah.
I think Cam Ward lost the Heisman yesterday.
Yeah, he did.
And we're going to see a guy that plays on Smurf turf win the Heisman.
Maybe.
Travis might have something to say about it.
Yeah.
But I mean, and Dylan Gabriel is still there too. But once Ohio State beats them in the Big Ten title game, then I think that will alleviate that. So yeah, create another crazy week of college football. New polls are out, and who had 4 of the top 5 after week 10, we'll call it, being from the Big Ten on your bingo card.
That's crazy, man.
It blows my mind.
That's crazy. I love it though. I love it.
Yeah, I mean, and to think that Ohio State has played number 1, they've played number 4, and they play number 5, and they could potentially play number 1 again.
Yeah.
For as slept on as the Ohio State schedule was at the start of the year, the way things are shaking out, it's going to be one of the tougher schedules when it's all said and done.
No doubt about it.
So we'll see. Obviously, Northwestern this week, we will dive into that, obviously later this week. And Northwestern, again, like I said, the Buckeyes favored by 30.5. Another noon game. Big Ten Network. I did look that up while we were on. And, I think that's all I've got for this week. But definitely shout out, again to everybody. We are like 40 some weeks into this thing and still having just as much fun with it as we did day 1. We always want your feedback. Don't be strangers. I love it when you guys shoot us questions. It might take us a week or two to find a way to incorporate it like the one we did today, but we'll get it in there.
Yep.
So without you guys, we would have never did this. And then, shout out again to Chris at the barn, Jake at Cornerstone, our families for kind of supporting us through this.
Yeah, man.
That's all I've got.
That's all I got too, man. Fun episode.
Yeah, absolutely. It's always fun when it's a beatdown version.
Yeah.
Northwestern, spoiler alert, they don't scare me on the field, but classic trap game. You
don't know what the weather's going to be like. It could have 40-mile-an-hour winds like we had there a couple years ago.
And luckily, being in Wrigley, I think that helps a little bit because you don't have that mystique of the crazy stuff that happens at Northwestern.
Yeah.
And you're also not playing on their practice field, so it might be a win.
Yeah.
But with that said, everybody have a great week. Use this week to kind of decompress and reset. It's been a wild couple weeks in the world, and just love one another. And with that said, we will see you guys for Before the Battle Wildcat Edition.